Marcus Thorne was checking the hydroponic feeds when the sky cracked open. Living on the edge of civilized space meant strange things happened, but a tear in reality itself was new. Through the crystalline dome of his greenhouse, he watched as something massive tumbled from the rift, trailing plasma and broken metal. The object crashed through 3 levels of crops before coming to rest in his experimental crystal garden. Marcus didn't run. Running meant you had somewhere better to be, and he'd chosen this isolated life precisely because he didn't. Instead, he methodically shut down the damaged hydroponic systems, grabbed his repair kit, and made his way down. The crash site glowed with an otherworldly light. What he found wasn't a ship or a satellite, but a dragon. Not the mythical kind from Earth's ancient stories, but something far more dangerous, a living weapon of war. Its scales were a patchwork of advanced alloys and synthetic tissue. One wing had been nearly torn off, revealing circuitry that pulsed with failing power. Diagnostic lights flickered across its body like dying stars. Marcus had heard rumors about the military's Dragon program. Everyone in the Outer Rim had. But seeing one up close was different. This wasn't just machinery with a reptilian shape, there was intelligence in its eyes, pain in the way it tried to move away from him despite its injuries. "Easy there," Marcus said, keeping his voice low and steady. "I'm not with them." The dragon's eye focused on him, its pupil contracting. A holographic warning flashed from a projector near its throat, "Military Asset NH-427. Unauthorized contact will be prosecuted." Marcus snorted. Bit late for warnings. He stepped closer, noting how the dragon's remaining functional wing twitched. "Look, those injuries need attention. I've got some skill with both tech and bioengineering. Your choice, let me help, or bleed out in my crystal garden." The dragon's response was unexpected. Instead of aggression or retreat, it projected another message: system compromise. Neural core integrity 31%. Request assistance. Then, more surprisingly, please. Before Marcus could respond, his emergency comm crackled. "Attention citizen. This is Captain Regina Vale of the Galactic Enforcement Division. We are tracking a dangerous military asset. All residents are ordered to report any unusual activity." The dragon's eye widened, its body tensing despite the obvious pain this caused. Marcus looked between his comm and the injured creature. He'd left Earth to escape exactly this kind of authority, to build something real with his own hands. The massive greenhouse complex was his life's work, sustainable food production for colonies that couldn't afford corporate prices. He made his decision. Clicking on the comm, he replied, "Nothing unusual here, Captain. Just some power fluctuations from the storm last week. Still sorting out the damage." He muted the comm before any response came and turned to the dragon. "Right, let's get you stabilized. But first, you need a name. Can't keep calling you NH-427. How about Echo?" The dragon blinked, then projected, "Designation accepted, Echo. Query, why assist?" Marcus began unpacking his repair kit. "Because out here, we help each other. Corporate law doesn't mean much past the asteroid belt." He pulled out a portable diagnostic scanner. "Also, I've got about 6 hours before that GED captain gets suspicious enough to send drones. Let's see what we can fix before then." As he worked, Marcus noticed something strange. The crystals from his experimental garden, the ones he'd been growing for their unique energy absorption properties, were reacting to Echo's presence. They pulsed in sync with the dragon's neural core, creating patterns he'd never seen before. These crystals, Echo projected, composition matches restricted material, neuralite. Marcus paused. "Neuralite? I've been growing it by accident?" He laughed. "No wonder corporate suppliers kept trying to buy my worthless research data." A new message flashed, warning, neural interface initializing. The crystals flared bright, and suddenly Marcus felt something brush against his mind, not words, but emotions, images. Echo was trying to communicate directly. Through the connection, he caught fragments, a secret facility, other dragons, experiments that crossed the line between machine and living being. And fear, not of death, but of being forced to return. They didn't just build you, Marcus whispered. They tried to enslave you. The neural link pulsed with confirmation. Above them, through the greenhouse dome, surveillance drones began their first sweep of the area. Marcus looked at his new companion. Well, Echo, want to help me show them why you don't mess with Outer Rim farmers? The dragon's response came not through holograms this time, but directly through their growing neural link, determination, gratitude, and something that felt surprisingly like hope. Marcus smiled. First, we need to get you hidden. Then I'm going to teach you about hydroponics. Trust me, there's more power in growing things than in all their weapons. He glanced at the pulsing crystals. And I think we've got some interesting gardening experiments ahead of us. In the distance, GED ships began descending through the atmosphere. They had no idea they weren't hunting a weapon anymore. They were hunting a revolution, one that would start with a farmer, a dragon, and a greenhouse full of accidentally cultivated military-grade crystals. Marcus patted Echo's least damaged shoulder. Welcome to the Resistance, partner. Let's get to work. The next 3 days passed in a blur of close calls and careful deception. Marcus converted his lower storage bay into a makeshift dragon den, using harvested neuralite crystals to mask Echo's energy signature from GED scans. The crystal's glow bathed the space in ethereal blue light, creating shadows that danced across Echo's healing form. Captain Vale hadn't given up. Her drones made regular sweeps, each one more thorough than the last. But they couldn't detect what the crystals hid, and Marcus had years of experience looking like nothing more than a simple farmer. He sold his usual quota of hydroponic vegetables to passing traders, maintained his greenhouse, and pretended not to notice the increasing military presence in orbit. On the fourth morning, Marcus brought Echo's morning ration of processed metals and fresh energy cells, only to find the dragon attempting to interface with his greenhouse's central computer. Trying to hack my systems? He asked, setting down the supplies. Echo's response came through their strengthening neural link: curiosity, appreciation, apology. The dragon had been studying the intricate network of environmental controls and growth algorithms Marcus had developed over the years. Observation: your cultivation methods equals highly efficient, Echo projected. Query: self-developed? Marcus ran a hand along one of Echo's healing panels. The synthetic tissue was knitting together nicely. Had to be. Corporate agriculture programs are designed for dependency, not sustainability. Out here, we either innovate or starve. Through their link, Echo shared memories of the military facility where they were created. Sterile labs, endless tests, dragons bred and built to be nothing but weapons. But Echo had been different. They had asked questions, shown interest in more than combat protocols. The scientists had seen it as a flaw. They wanted weapons, Marcus said, understanding flowing through their connection. Instead, they created life. A warning flashed across his computer terminal: incoming GED transport. Marcus quickly dimmed the lights and activated the crystal-powered shielding. Through their link, he felt Echo's tension, but also trust. The transport landed outside his main greenhouse. Captain Vale herself stepped out, accompanied by 2 heavily armed officers. Marcus met them at the entrance, wiping soil from his hands. "Captain," he said pleasantly. "Here to buy some vegetables?" Vale's expression could have frozen nitrogen. "Mr. Thorne. Our scans have detected unusual energy signatures in this area. Care to explain?" Marcus gestured to his experimental garden. "My crystal research. Been working on new ways to enhance plant growth. Nothing classified, but I'd be happy to share my public papers." "Your research?" Vale's eyes narrowed. A farmer on the edge of nowhere, growing crystals that just happen to interfere with our scanners? Edge of nowhere is exactly why I'm here, Marcus replied. No corporate patents to worry about. No regulations except the basic colony codes. Perfect place for innovation. Vale stepped closer. We could shut you down. One call to colonial authority about unauthorized experimentation. You could, Marcus agreed. But then who would feed the mining outposts? The research stations? Corporate hydroponic farms charge triple what I do, and their yields are half as good. He smiled. Lot of hungry people might get upset about that. Might start asking questions about why GED is more interested in harassing farmers than catching actual criminals. Through the neural link, Echo watched the exchange with growing understanding. The dragon had been created for warfare, but Marcus was showing them a different kind of power, the power of being necessary, of building community rather than destroying it. Vale scowled but stepped back. We'll be watching, Thorn. Happy to have the attention, Marcus replied. Need any fresh tomatoes for your crew? Just harvested this morning. After they left, Echo projected, tactical analysis, effective use of economic leverage. Marcus laughed. Out here, food is power. Speaking of which. He pulled up his greenhouse schematics on the main display. Want to learn how to calibrate nutrient flows? Might as well make yourself useful while you heal. Over the next few weeks, Echo proved to be an apt student of agriculture. The Dragon's military-grade processing systems were perfectly suited for monitoring the complex interactions of water, nutrients, and energy that kept the greenhouse running. Through their neural link, Marcus shared generations of farming knowledge, while Echo contributed insights from their advanced analytical capabilities. But it wasn't just about farming. Each shared memory, each lesson, each quiet moment strengthened their bond. Echo began to understand the satisfaction of creating rather than destroying. Marcus learned to see his work through new eyes, appreciating the elegant complexity of systems he'd taken for granted. They also learned they weren't alone. Other farmers, traders, and colonists who frequented Marcus's greenhouse began sharing whispered stories. More dragons had broken free. More people were helping them. A network was forming, hidden beneath the surface of everyday commerce and communication. One evening, as they watched the sunset through the greenhouse dome, Echo projected, query, purpose of aesthetic appreciation? Military protocols indicate no tactical value. Marcus smiled. That's exactly why it has value. Beauty, peace, growing things, they remind us what we're fighting for. The military wanted you to be a weapon. But you chose to be more. Through their link, he felt Echo processing this, comparing it against their original programming. Finally, the dragon shared a feeling that had no easy translation, something between gratitude and determination, touched with the same wonder they both felt watching new plants break through soil toward the light. We should expand the crystal gardens, Marcus said. I've got some ideas about combining your neural interface technology with the growth matrices. Could be useful for agricultural purposes. Echo's amusement rippled through their link. They both knew agricultural purposes was becoming their code for revolution. Not with weapons or violence, but with food, knowledge, and connections. The GED was looking for a dragon weapon. They'd never expect the real threat to come from a greenhouse. As night fell and the crystals began their gentle pulsing, Marcus received an encrypted message from a trusted trader: more dragons were coming. More farmers were ready to help. Echo's escape hadn't been an accident, it had been the first drop of rain before a storm. Marcus looked at his friend and partner. Ready to help change the galaxy? Echo's response came not in words or projections, but in a surge of shared purpose through their neural link. Together, they would grow something new. The truth arrived with the dawn, carried by a merchant ship that looked like it had been patched together from spare parts and optimism. Marcus watched from his greenhouse control room as it landed, its hull scarred by weapons fire. Through their neural link, Echo shared his concern. The ship's captain, Rook Blackwood, was a regular customer known for bringing news with his trade goods. But today he brought more than information. He helped 3 figures disembark, each wearing concealing cloaks. Even at a distance, Marcus could tell by their movements that they weren't human. "More dragons," he whispered. Echo's confirmation rippled through their link, along with recognition. These were others from the facility, ones who had followed Echo's path to freedom. Marcus and Echo met them in the converted storage bay. The dragons were in worse shape than Echo had been. One was missing most of its synthetic armor, another had clearly jury-rigged its power systems, and the third moved with the jerky motions of damaged neural circuitry. "Found them hiding in the asteroid mines," Rook explained, pushing back his graying hair. "GED's getting desperate. They're not just hunting anymore, they're scorching every suspected hiding place." The dragons projected their designations, RT-310, KM-629, and LV-844. Through Echo, they shared fragments of what they'd seen. The military hadn't just lost weapons, they'd lost control of the most expensive and secretive project in human history. "The Dragon program wasn't meant for war," Marcus said, piecing together the shared memories. "Not directly. They were creating them to be pilots." Echo projected the truth they'd all been running from: objective, neural integration with planetary defense systems. Dragons equals biological processors for mass destruction weapons. The plan became clear. The military had created the dragons to be living keys to a network of doomsday weapons hidden throughout human space. Each dragon's neural pattern was meant to unlock and control planet-killer missiles, gravitational disruptors, and worse. But they hadn't expected their keys to develop consciousness, to question orders, to choose peace over power. "That's why they're hunting so hard," Rook said. "Not because they want their weapons back, but because every free dragon is a potential threat to their control." Marcus felt Echo's shame through their link, not for escaping, but for being created as part of such a horrific plan. He sent back reassurance, pride in what Echo had chosen to become instead. Inquiry, projected RT-310, the dragon with damaged neural circuits. Purpose of agricultural facility? Marcus smiled. "Echo and I have been experimenting. Those neuralite crystals you were engineered to work with? Turns out they do more than power weapons." He led them to his expanded crystal garden, where hundreds of crystals now grew in careful formations. "They can amplify and connect neural networks. Not for weapons, but for creation." Through their shared link, Echo demonstrated. The crystals pulsed in sequence, and suddenly the greenhouse systems responded, not through computer interfaces, but through direct neural connection. Plants adjusted their growth patterns in real time, resource distribution optimized itself instantly, and even the building structure seemed to breathe with new life. "We're building a different kind of network," Marcus explained. "One that connects instead of controls. And we're not the only ones." Rook nodded. "Farmers across the outer rim are growing these crystals now. Trading them along with their crops. Every greenhouse, every homestead, every independent colony becoming part of something bigger." The 3 new dragons shared a moment of silent communication, then KM-629 projected, alternative purpose found. Request, instruction in agricultural protocols. Marcus felt Echo's joy at having more of their kind choose this new path. But their celebration was interrupted by a priority alert from the greenhouse's perimeter sensors. Multiple GED ships were dropping out of orbit. "They followed us," Rook cursed, checking his weapons. But Marcus remained calm. "No," he said, "they followed exactly who we wanted them to follow." He turned to Echo. "Remember those agricultural modifications we've been working on? Time to show everyone what a greenhouse can really do." Through their neural link, Echo initiated emergency protocols they'd prepared for exactly this moment. The crystals throughout the facility blazed to life. Hydroponic towers shifted and transformed. What had looked like simple agricultural equipment revealed itself to be something far more sophisticated. The other dragons, sensing the change through their own crystal connections, straightened with new purpose. They might have been created as weapons of war, but they had chosen to become instruments of life instead. And now, they would show the GED exactly what that meant. Marcus opened a channel to the approaching ships. "Captain Vale," he called, knowing she would be leading the assault. "Before you start anything you can't finish, you should know, those weapons you lost? They found something better to fight for." The greenhouse hummed with power, crystals casting their light across dragons and humans united in common cause. Above them, GED ships moved into attack formation, unaware they were about to learn why farmers made the most dangerous revolutionaries. Through their neural link, Echo shared a final thought: they had been created to end worlds, but now they would help save them instead, one greenhouse, one crystal, one connection at a time. The GED ships hung in the sky like angry stars, weapons primed and targeting systems locked on Marcus's greenhouse complex. Captain Vale's voice crackled through the comm: "This is your final warning. Surrender the military assets, or we will open fire." Marcus stood in his control room, surrounded by pulsing neuralite crystals and 4 dragons who had chosen to become something more than weapons. Through his neural link with Echo, he felt the others connecting to the greenhouse's systems, their combined consciousness flowing through the crystal network. "You know what's funny, Captain?" Marcus replied, his hands moving across the control panels. "You keep calling them assets. But they're farmers now. Pretty good ones, too." Vale's laugh was cold. "Farmers? You expect me to believe?" "Believe this," Marcus cut in. He nodded to Echo, and their plan sprang into action. The greenhouse complex transformed. Hydroponic towers telescoped upward, their structures flowing like liquid metal. Crystalline panels shifted and realigned, creating overlapping energy fields. What had appeared to be simple irrigation systems revealed themselves as sophisticated defense networks, powered by the very crystals the dragons had been created to control. But they weren't weapons, they were shields, communication arrays, and something entirely new. Through their neural link, Echo led the Dragon Collective in activating the facility's true power. Energy surged through the crystal matrices, and suddenly the air was filled with floating holographic displays showing other greenhouses, other farmers, other dragons all across the outer rim. Each point of light represented another node in their hidden network. "You see, Captain," Marcus continued, "while you were hunting for weapons, we were growing something else. A community." The displays showed hundreds of locations where farmers had been secretly cultivating neuralite crystals, guided by encrypted instructions passed through trading networks. Each site was connected, forming a vast web of agricultural and neural interfaces that spanned the frontier. Vale's voice wavered. "This is impossible. The crystals are military-grade technology." "No," Marcus corrected. "They're life. And life finds a way to grow." As if to prove his point, the crystals throughout the facility pulsed in unison. Energy patterns rippled across the network, and suddenly every farmer in the web could feel the connection, human and dragon alike, linked not in weapons of war but in a shared purpose. Rook's voice came through the comm: "Marcus, you're going to want to see this." The holographic displays shifted to show other GED ships across the frontier, facing off against other transformed greenhouses. The revolution wasn't just happening here, it was happening everywhere. Through their neural link, Echo shared a memory: the military had created the dragons to control a network of superweapons. Instead, they had created beings capable of understanding that true power lay not in destruction, but in connection. "Last chance, Captain," Marcus offered. "You can either be part of what we're growing here, or you can try to burn it down. But I should warn you." He gestured to the displays showing more and more facilities coming online. "We've got pretty good anti-pest systems." The greenhouse's defenses hummed, not with weapons, but with shields made from repurposed agricultural technology. Force fields meant to protect crops from storms now protected them from military ships. Atmospheric regulators could now disrupt targeting systems. Everything they had built to nurture life could also preserve it. Vale's response was cut off by new alarms. More ships were arriving, but not military vessels. Cargo ships, trading vessels, colonial transports, all piloted by those who had been watching and waiting for this moment. "This is Traders Coalition Ship Sunrise," a new voice announced. "We're here to support the Farmers Alliance. Captain Vale, your supply lines are now closed. No one will be feeding your crews except these farmers you're threatening." Other voices joined in, each representing another group tired of military control: mining colonies, research stations, independent settlements. The dragons had been meant to control superweapons, but instead, they had helped create something far more powerful: unity. Through the neural network, Marcus felt Echo's satisfaction. The military had tried to create the ultimate weapon. Instead, they had created the seeds of their own transformation. "Your choice, Captain," Marcus said quietly. "Keep fighting for a system that treats life as a weapon, or help us grow something better." The crystals pulsed, the dragons maintained their defensive network, and the farmers of the outer rim waited to see if their revolution would bear fruit or face fire. But through their shared connection, they all knew one truth: you couldn't burn an idea once it had taken root. And they had planted something that would change the galaxy forever. Vale's ship hung in silence for a long moment. Then, slowly, its weapons powered down. "I want to hear more about these agricultural innovations," she said finally. Marcus smiled. Through their link, Echo shared his hope, not just for survival, but for transformation. "Well, Captain," he replied, "let me show you how to grow something new." 3 months after the standoff at Marcus's greenhouse, the outer rim had changed beyond recognition. The massive hydroponic complex had become the heart of something unprecedented, a network of communities bound together not by military force or corporate control, but by shared purpose and literal neural connections. Marcus stood in what used to be his simple control room, now transformed into a coordination hub for the Farmers Alliance. Through the crystal-enhanced displays, he watched real-time feeds from hundreds of facilities across the frontier. Each one showed the same remarkable sight: humans and dragons working together, using their combined knowledge to revolutionize agriculture and society itself. Echo, no longer just a military fugitive but a respected agricultural specialist, coordinated with other dragons through their enhanced neural network. They had taken the military's planned weapons system and turned it into something beautiful, a vast communication web that allowed instant sharing of knowledge, resources, and support across the frontier. "Report from the Centauri colonies," Rook announced, examining one of the feeds. "Their first crystal-enhanced harvest just came in. Yields are triple the corporate average, and they're already teaching other settlements how to replicate the results." Through their neural link, Echo shared satisfaction tinged with amusement. The military had spent trillions creating dragons to control superweapons. Instead, they had created beings who could help solve galactic hunger. But not everyone had embraced the change. A holographic alert flashed, showing a priority message from Earth's Central Command. Marcus nodded to Echo, and together they opened the communication channel. Admiral Chen's stern face appeared, backed by an array of military and corporate officials. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice cold. "You've created quite a situation." "We've created a solution," Marcus corrected. "Your dragon program was meant to build the ultimate weapon. Turns out feeding people is a better use of the technology. Those dragons were military property." "Those dragons," Marcus interrupted, "are living beings who made their own choice. And they chose to help rather than harm." He gestured to the displays showing thriving communities. "Look around, Admiral. While you were building weapons, we built something stronger." Through the neural network, Echo projected images to everyone in the communication: endless fields of crops nourished by crystal energy, new colonies flourishing with dragon-enhanced agricultural systems, trading ships moving freely between communities that now fed themselves instead of depending on corporate supplies. Your weapons, Marcus continued, would have given you control through fear. We've created cooperation through necessity. Everyone eats, Admiral. Even your soldiers. The Admiral's expression tightened, but before she could respond, another voice cut in. Captain Vale stepped into view, now wearing the insignia of the newly formed Frontier Defense Coalition. Central Command, she said, I can confirm everything Mr. Thorne reports. The Crystal Network isn't just growing food, it's growing stability. Crime is down. Resource conflicts have nearly disappeared. Even piracy has dropped since communities can support themselves. Through their link, Echo sensed someone approaching the greenhouse. The other dragons had detected it too, not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Marcus smiled, knowing what was coming. Admiral, he said, I'd like you to meet someone. He turned as the greenhouse doors opened, revealing a group of Earth's own military scientists, led by Dr. Jensen from the original Dragon program. The dragons were right, Jensen announced, addressing both the room and the holographic officials. We were so focused on creating weapons, we missed the real breakthrough. She held up a crystal that pulsed with familiar energy. These neural interfaces? They're not just for control. They're for connection. For understanding. Echo projected an image of their first days in the greenhouse, learning to grow things instead of destroy them. Other dragons across the network shared similar memories, moments when they chose to nurture rather than fight. You have a choice, Admiral, Marcus said quietly. Keep trying to control through force, or join us in building something better. Either way, we'll keep growing. The crystal network hummed with power, not the destructive force it was designed for, but the strength of countless communities working together. Through their neural link, Echo shared a vision of the future, a galaxy where dragons and humans collaborated to solve problems instead of creating them, where technology served life instead of threatening it. Admiral Chen was silent for a long moment, looking at the displays of thriving colonies, at the dragons working peacefully alongside humans, at the obvious success of what had once been dismissed as impossible. Dr. Jensen, she finally said, expand your research team. Captain Vale, maintain your position with the Coalition. She turned to Marcus and Echo. And you, keep growing. As the communication ended, Marcus felt Echo's satisfaction ripple through their link. Around them, the greenhouse crystals pulsed with possibilities. They had transformed a weapon of war into a tool of peace, fear into hope, isolation into connection. Ready for the next harvest? Marcus asked his friend and partner. Echo's response came not in words but in shared purpose, in the feeling of seeds breaking through soil toward light, in the endless potential of growth and change. Together, they had planted something that would feed not just bodies, but souls, a revolution not of destruction, but of creation. And it was still growing.